Water Street in Liverpool. Not only does it provide part of the backdrop to John Maxwell's debut spy yarn novel of the same name, it also provides a look into Liverpool's glorious and rich past, when rich merchants with links to America were bringing vast wealth through trade through the port. By contrast, the poverty in other surrounding areas of Liverpool was at its height. People were living in dank, dark conditions, with life expectancy at an all-time low.
Well, Water Street is a Western spy yarn set in Liverpool in 1863, and it mainly is preoccupied with the American Civil War and that sort of underplayed story, really, of how this city, which was much more influential in the time and comparative to the rest of the world, richer, a very rich and populous place as it was, had a significant say. And both the Confederacy and the Union were heavily invested in that. They knew that what was going through the city was an important thing. So that's the kind of genesis of it. The basis of the story is that it's a Confederate commander, a guy called Bannister Xavier Dunwoody, comes to Liverpool on a clandestine mission. He's the unofficial consul to the city, and he's got plans, firstly, to commission Navy vessels to be built out of camel lead and crewed here in an effort to break the Union blockade, and then a much bigger plan, which you'll find out in the book if you read it. But he is being subverted. A Union spy is trying to sabotage what he's doing, and that Union spy happens to be his wife, Harriet.
But it wasn't the Western backdrop or the spy yarn narrative that mainly piqued my interest in this book. It was the sociological and economical parallels with Liverpool today.
Just down here is the landing stage, as it was St George's Dock, so before the pier head, before the liver buildings, all that iconic stuff you see now. That's where people flooded in from all over the world. 1840s, 50s, 60s, so much of the population of the city came through from Ireland, pretty much out of desperation, pretty much out of a need of having to escape what was going on there. It was a very, very difficult and grim place. Liverpool's population just exploded at this time. I've put scenes of Water Street down there deliberately because it chimes with stuff I've got evidence of my ancestors coming through the landing stage at this period of time in the 1840s and 1850s.
Although Liverpool suffered massive decline in the 20th century, it has also been the subject of large regeneration in the 21st century. In 2008, it was named European Capital of Culture, and with it, massive investment was brought into the city. Things like Liverpool One Shopping Centre, the Museum of Liverpool, all came on the back of European Capital of Culture, but this mainly centres on the city centre. Ken Pye is a Liverpool writer and historian. He has written books such as Discover Liverpool. While accepting its faults, he's keen to emphasise the change in Liverpool since the 70s and 80s, and just how things like European Capital of Culture have benefited the city.
So, after the Second World War and the decline of Liverpool, which was catastrophic, the population fell from what had been almost 1 million people before the war to less than 500,000, and down to almost 1/3 of a million after the war, particularly in the late 60s, early 70s and throughout the 70s, until you get to the early 80s when the unemployment is really significant in Liverpool. And in fact, we had the great problem of Margaret Thatcher and Geoffrey Howe getting together and deciding to ignore Liverpool, to write it off. Natural decline, just let it die. And it was Michael Heseltine, incidentally, who couldn't stand that, who fought against it and said, you can't let that happen to a place like Liverpool. Yes, it's on its uppers now, but that's when we've got to move in and regenerate it. It did need a trigger. He tried with the Garden Festival. It began to change external perception, and he was very good at attracting new investment with the help of the Merseyside Development Corporation in the 80s, but not enough. We needed some massive trigger. And it would take another 20 years before that happened, but it was capital of culture, because then once again we became a world-class city. We were so significant during the 17th and 18th and 19th centuries. So we had to start from ground zero again. But I remember I was at the Empire Theatre when the announcement was made, with Mike Story and David Henshaw and other leading lights of the city, that we had won. Not just that we had won. And it was a lovely sunny day, and I had lots of meetings that day. And I'm driving around the city, and there was a physical, a tangible joy in the air. And people were shouting, we've won! Yes, we've won! We're capital of culture, isn't that brilliant? And it was. And everywhere I went, all the meetings started off with the conversation about capital of culture. What's it going to do? Are we going to get money? I mean, there was a great illusion that we would suddenly get millions and millions of pounds thrown at us. But, of course, the announcement was made a few years before the title actually was officially formal. We became the 2008 Capital of Culture. That gave us time to start working on the infrastructure of Liverpool. New telephone lines, computer cables, the roads were repaired. I mean, I can remember no other time in my life, except perhaps immediately after the bombing in the war, and I wasn't born then, that so much construction work was going on prior to Capital of Culture year 2008. And they said at one point there were more cranes in Liverpool than any other city in Europe. And you could do dozens of them, you'd count them on the horizon. So we were ready for when it came. And we had a practice, of course, 2007, our birthday. We were founded in 1207, of course. So this was our 800th birthday. So we had a practice year, lots of events and celebrations, and it worked. So that when Capital of Culture year came, we did it well. So well, in fact, that we still make money from countries and cities around the world now, because there are capital of culture competitions of various forms all around the world. There's an Asian one, an Australasian one, Central and South America one, a North America one, and more European ones, of course. They come to Liverpool and pay us fees to find out how you do it properly, because we did it properly. And of course, our capital of culture lasted 10 years. 2007 right the way through to 2017, and we had a separate themed year for each year after 2008. Year of the sea, year of health, year of the environment, year of education. It was absolutely wonderful.
Then, in 2022, Eurovision was named as the host for Eurovision Song Contest in 2023. However, many feel that that has only benefited certain aspects of Liverpool, and that there are many areas that still need massive investment, especially during the cost of living crisis. This is the house I grew up in. It has hardly changed, except just the outside paint colour and a few amendments to the windows and doors. The outside area is actually worse than it was in the 1980s when I grew up here. The 1980s were known as one of Liverpool's darkest decades. Yet around this area, I was free to play on these fields, roam up and down the back path. But now, this back path is all fenced, gated, and blocked off to anybody. With it is litter and overgrown bushery. I spoke to some people who live and work in Liverpool. Some of them had positive things to say, whereas others felt investment was badly needed in other areas.
Uh, as a resident here, I'm pretty much contented with the area. Services are running good. The roads are alright. Every now and then there's people walking. Even as I'm talking, there's a couple of works going on down there. And a few times I've also seen people coming around to clean the ponds. Sometimes I like to come around and sit in the nature, and people here and there come around to clean the ponds. So I think, in my opinion, that's my opinion, the council is doing some work. You know what I mean? They are doing what they gotta do.
I think for the average person, it doesn't really affect those people. I'd say we should have more of bringing the tourists in, and some way they can show that it will benefit us.
I didn't think much of Eurovision. I've never thought much of it. What did it do for us? Nothing for me. My area needs investments badly.
I don't think it would benefit the poorer areas. I mean, it was good for the city centre because it brought more money in, but I don't see it benefiting other areas.
Trickle out that way, because they probably wouldn't visit in areas with there, so it probably just stays at the top.
Yeah, pretty central.
It's fair to say that Liverpool evokes strong reactions from people both inside and outside the city. It seems to encompass everything that is the best about the UK alongside everything that is the worst.
I do tend to think, though, that it was jealousy, it was resentment. I mean, why are they doing so well, and why can't we do the same? We were an easy target as well, because we wear our hearts on our sleeve. There's nothing devious about Scousers at all. We haven't got the time or the patience or the wit to be devious. It's much easier to actually just tell you what we think of you. If we hate you, we'll tell you we hate you. We'll give you the chance to redeem yourself and improve how you are. But if we love you, my goodness, we'll show you we love you. We're fiercely loyal, belligerently independent. Nobody tells a Scouser what to do at all. So outside, they saw the glamour and the glory and the glitz, and that's why foreign countries love us. America had such an association with it. Made money out of Liverpool. We made money out of America too, but we have this association with America that is timeless. So they regard us very well. But Liverpool in Britain, it was the British who didn't like us, and they would seize every opportunity to poke fun at our accent, at our sense of community and family. They found that an easy target. Although why, I don't know, because that's an advantage, it seems to me. Our sense of humour, I think they hated that too, because that's very in your face. We have a good time, we're very positive. We try and find a positive outcome for everything, even in the worst of times. And yet the interesting thing is, we are so tribal here. We're divided by everything. Religion, football team, political party, postal districts, career. I mean, so many things, and yet, when the going gets tough, we come together so strongly, so quickly, so firmly, and bind together. Hillsborough is a case in point. The bombing during the Second World War, another case in point. The Great Depression in the 30s, the recession, COVID, Ukraine. Here we all welcome the Ukraine refugees here. And I don't know, perhaps people resent that as well about us. But that's their loss. And what we do continually is prove the critics wrong. We keep coming back, and we keep coming back stronger and stronger and more content, more self-aware.
I think for me, often the best and worst of the city coexist. Liverpool will change. It's changing right now. And I think, should we be obsessed with navel gazing, with looking at the past? that's a philosophical question, and I think it's something we'll continue to kind of struggle with. But in a sense, I don't think we're going to get away from that because the past is so strong. It's almost kind of the selling point of the city to many. You know, and maybe you can go back to the 1960s. I'll mention the Beatles, because I've mentioned them here. But you know, they're a major draw, and why not? Why not bring people to the city off the back of that? I haven't got a problem with that. In the same way, I haven't got a problem with Eurovision. But it's that kind of bigger systemic, community-wide effect that I'm looking for. That's what I'm preoccupied with. You know, I think the cherry and the cake and the you know the influx of money is great, but there needs to be a kind of focus on the bigger picture.
Comparing Liverpool now to the 1800s, there's definitely many similarities and also some differences. It has received massive investment in the past 20 or so years. Thankfully, many of the majestic buildings of the 1800s are still here, although some have been replaced by more modern buildings. Will things ever be equal throughout the city? Probably not, but the same could be said about any UK city.